I got my iced coffee, I got my ice cream, and I got Jesus. Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Amber Rose. I'm also known as the Religious Hippie. If you want, you can find me on basically any social media platform. They're linked below in the description, or you can just type in the Religious Hippie and you will find me. So I bet you guys are like, oh my gosh, is she going for coffee again? And the answer is yes. When do I not go for coffee? I promise you I'm not addicted to coffee. However, I do have the taste for it, so I'm gonna get a coffee, a small one though, because I don't think I can handle a medium amount of coffee caffeine or whatever. So we're gonna get a small one, and then my mom needs cheese for pizza, so I'm gonna go get her some cheese from the grocery store, and then we're gonna talk about purity. Hi, may I please have a small iced coffee?
Small iced coffee?
Yeah, can I just have almond milk and 1 pump of vanilla in there?
Possible commands are dial number, redial, music, or further options.
Stop.
You can also say call, plus...
Thank you. Okay, so my car just decidedly randomly to talk, probably because I pushed a button. Honestly, there's so many buttons on this car, I don't even know at this point. That is the good stuff. I parked like really far away from the grocery store. So good. Okay. This is normal, I promise. So while I've been running errands, you guys have sent me your questions, so I'm gonna be reading those. Can anyone guess what kind of ice cream I'm eating? It's really good. So specifically for this Q&A, I'm going to leave people's usernames out because I know a lot of these topics can be touchy and I don't want anyone to be embarrassed by asking these questions, so I'm just going to leave your guys' usernames out. But if you guys see your questions, that's awesome. I'm going to try to get to as many as I can, but usually there's so many that I can't really get to all of them. So what I'm going to try and do is answer the questions that are most asked by people, so like the very popular questions that everyone's asking, and then get to the minor ones. I love ice cream so much. Alright, so we're just going to jump right in because what other way is there to do this? First question. I recently got into Catholicism again and I've already had sex. I'm very worried about the sins, but I'm not sure what to do. Great question. I have a lot of friends who were lied to back in their teens and stuff and had sex and regretted it. So obviously the first thing we should be doing is going to confession and doing that examination of conscience. I found this great examination of conscience. It's by Bulldog Catholic or something like that. I'll link it below in the description so that you can go through it, and it actually walks you through how to do an examination of conscience. I've shared this with multiple friends and it's been trending on Catholic Twitter and Catholic Instagram and everywhere. So I think this is a really great thing to do. Examine your conscience and then write down those sins and go to confession and confess them to a priest. Once those sins are confessed and you've done penance, those sins are forgiven. So don't feel guilty about that. The other thing you should be doing though is if you're really struggling emotionally with how to cope with something like that, because I know personally a lot of friends who have gone through that and emotionally it wrecked them, I would really suggest getting a Catholic advisor or even meeting with a priest if you're comfortable with that. And just discussing with them your fears and your thoughts and really get that guidance that's needed to overcome those boulders, kind of. But again, it was a lie that started back with the sexual revolution that women would be empowered if they had sex, and unfortunately it's led to a very broken culture. But it's great that you're recognizing that it's sinful and you want to be better, because that's the whole point of being self-aware and Catholic and everything, you know, examining that conscience is so that we can be more self-aware, so that we sin less. So I hope that helps you, and God bless you. Alright, our next question is it okay to wear pants? Now, I think I've talked about this topic twice-ish. So there's this thing called Marian Modesty, and Marian Modesty is basically where women only wear skirts or dresses, per se. I mean, you can wear jeans underneath them. I don't really understand that, but again, I don't do Marian Modesty, so I'm not really sure. However, it is a great thing to practice if you're called to that. A great example of this is Evelyn. She is called the Sunflower Catholic. I'll link her stuff below. She is amazing at Marian Modesty. It truly fits her personality and her style and how she wants to show Catholicism in the way that she dresses. Like, that is amazing. Now, it is not sinful to wear pants. I personally would not wear pants to Mass or to church. I know people who do because they don't feel comfortable in a dress or something like that. And I still say you should still jump out of your comfort zone a little bit and wear a dress or a skirt to Mass at least. But I've also seen this really cool trend going around, which is like a challenge where women wear only skirts and dresses for like a week to a month. And they say that it's completely changed their life. I personally have not done this yet because I am extremely active and I'm constantly running, doing things. It's very hard for me to work in a skirt or a dress. I know people who do it and they do it amazingly. Evelyn is one of those people. I haven't figured that out yet. So I struggle with that. But it is not sinful to wear pants. The thing that we should be looking out for is the modesty. So basically, what's the intention of wearing pants? Like, are they super, super tight to show off your butt and your waist? Or are you wearing them because, for me, they're comfortable? Like, oh my gosh, you can't see, hang on. Like, this is basically my outfit today. These are my ripped working jeans and a brown t-shirt and a flannel that Luke got me. It's like, I'm wearing this because guess what? It's comfortable. Like, it's really comfortable. But if you're wearing jeans to look sexy, be like, oh, you know,
boys are gonna love me in these jeans, or
Girls are going to flaunt over me in these tight, skinny jeans.
that's a no-no. We shouldn't be wearing something so that other people are led to sin because of us. Like, you still want to be dressing modestly and not drawing attention to yourself. And as I mentioned before, this does not mean that every guy is still going to respect you. There are guys out there who, like, you could be wrapped up in 7 layers of bubble wrap, a huge coat, hats and everything, and they'd still be like, okay, that's not your fault. However, our mindset and our intention is what counts. So if our intention is to lead another to sin, that's a big no-no. I mean, I'm not really showing skin or anything like that, maybe my kneecap, but like, you know, and that's fine because I'm comfortable, but I'm still modest. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. And I'll link my modesty videos below because I know that is a huge topic that so many people are concerned about these days. So, okay, our next question is, what are the best ways to fight impurity and impure thoughts? This one's difficult. This one, I believe, is a huge issue that my generation and generations younger than me have been dealing with since boomer generation, basically. Like, it's a huge, huge issue. And, you know, I'm always amazed that third world countries are recognizing this issue and they're actually banning, like, Pornhub and everything like that. But the United States is a little behind on that. Just a little bit. So, basically, the best way that I found is to really dive deep into your Catholic faith. As soon as you feel those temptations hit of impurity or something, cast them out in the name of Jesus Christ. Be like, Jesus Christ, take these thoughts away from me. I don't want them. Because it's up to you to not want to have those impure thoughts. It only becomes a sin when you feed into those thoughts and you start, you know, kind of imagining into it and really feeding into it. So that's when that becomes a sin. But if it just like randomly pops into your head because you like see something and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, then you can cast that out in the name of Jesus Christ. But if you're feeding into it, that is an issue. So the other thing I need to kind of state on this is that in spiritual warfare, demons can actually use your memories against you. That is why it's so important about the things that we see, read, and hear. Because when we see something, that is in our memory, and those demons can actually pull that out and actually put it like into what we're thinking now. Now, they can't read our minds or anything like that, but they can sense us based off of our body posture and everything like that. And they can tell when we're about to sin, and they can really start pushing it so that it pushes us over that line. I'm not saying everybody suffers from this, because while every family has at least one demon in their generational line, sometimes it's just ourselves. You know, so you really have to determine that. But I definitely suggest going to confession and confessing to the priest that you're struggling with these impure thoughts, even though you're casting them out. Also, I would suggest praying the St. Michael prayer twice a day, in the morning and at night, and then also saying 3 Hail Marys before you go to bed. Okay, so our next question is a little sensitive, so men, hold your ears unless you're mature enough to hear about this stuff. What do you think about girls who don't use bras? I used to be like this, okay? When I was 16, 17, I was following that whole trend where it was like set the tatas free or whatever it was. And for me, I didn't think it was a huge deal because I didn't come back into my Catholic faith at that point. So I was just following whatever trend was going on in the world at that point. And that was one of the trends. There are certain health concerns surrounding, you know, certain bras. However, I still do think there's a modesty to be upheld. It's natural, okay? There's nothing wrong with our bodies, okay? But we still need to be respectful of the people around us. And that's not to say we should like feed into that whole mindset of like, oh, men will be men or boys will be boys. It's like, no, we should still be teaching the men how to respect women, but women shouldn't be flaunting around, enticing men. So I used to be one of those people. But I quickly grew out of it because I became very uncomfortable with the looks I would get from men. And the reason that I would do it was, A, it was a trend, but also I did it for attention. Like, I feel like that's one of the reasons women do that. Another percentage of the reason women just find bras uncomfortable and just don't want to wear them, I feel that, but there is an in-between where you can get those like sticky patches or whatever so that you can still be quote-unquote modest and it won't be that noticeable, if you know what I mean. A lot of the time, the reason women don't wear them is because they're uncomfortable, and that means you're not wearing the right type. So I highly suggest you go and actually get measured and get the right type of bra for you. Because a lot of times I feel like that's just an issue that's easily solved. So that's just my 2 cents. That's a little TMI, but you're welcome. Okay, our next question is, any tips for finding a Catholic boyfriend? You know what? I have no idea. I'm just gonna be honest. People have found Catholic boyfriends in so many different ways. I know people who've gone to net ministries, you know, that thing where college students who take a gap year basically go and minister all around the world, and they found their husbands there. I can name at least people on my 5 fingers who have done that. But then other people have met them at mass. Other people have met them at college, Catholic college. Other people have just met them at work randomly, completely non-Catholic work, but still they came together somehow. It just depends. It really depends. And you know what? You can always pray for your future spouse, you know, whoever that's gonna be. And you can pray for their well-being, you know, and be like, God, whoever my future spouse is, like protect them, blah, blah, blah. You know, that kind of thing. But I would suggest like not getting too caught up into it, you know? The best thing I can say is it'll happen in its own due time. God's timing is perfect. And that doesn't always mean the next person who walks through the door is going to be your boyfriend or your future spouse, but it can give you incentive to kind of start working on yourself for the betterment of a relationship in the future. So I think that's really cool. But my number 1 tip would be, if your church has a youth group, try to get into that. You never know who you might meet. Okay, so our next question is, what do you think about purity rings? Honestly, like, it's not a Catholic tradition, but I honestly like it. I like it, I do. Mainly because it gives us like a visual representation of our purity and what we are standing for when we say we're waiting for marriage. It kind of just like solidifies, you know, what we stand for, if that makes sense. Again, it's not really a Catholic tradition or something. It's more of a Protestant-based tradition, but there's nothing wrong with it. And honestly, I kind of like it. And it makes it more of a promise, I think, because, you know, like, it's almost like a promise ring to God, if that makes sense. And I kind of like that, you know? I don't know. I like it. You guys have so many good questions. Okay, next. What do you, as a girl, see as the meaning and purpose of masculine chivalry? My dyslexic brain is kind of trying to figure out what that said. However, I think I have it. Okay, so basically, I think the purpose of it is to really start treating women like women again. I mean, think of it. This whole issue that we're kind of having in today's world is because of a lack of true masculinity. Look at the men, you know? No offense, men. I mean, I'm sure there's some great ones out there. I'm dating one of them. He's awesome, you know, but if you look at a majority of the men who are being raised today, it's due to a lack of masculinity that they're quote-unquote whippy, and that's really unfortunate. You know, and like treating women like women and not sexual objects, which I do blame the sexual revolution for that. That is a huge issue. However, I do feel like a lot of days men do play into that as well as women, but we're talking about men right now. You know, I really want to apologize to men almost for this whole toxic feminist movement that's been going on. It doesn't even encompass what traditional feminists believed. You know, back in traditional femininity, it was about men and women. It wasn't just about women being better than men or men being better than women. It was about equality for both. And the toxic feminist movement that's been going on today is the exact opposite of everything they stood for back in the day. And as, you know, mature women, we look for certain things in guys. You know, are they respectable? Can they carry a conversation, you know, maturely? You know, do they treat women like ladies? You know, like they treat them like ladies. And that doesn't just mean opening the car door or buying them flowers every now and then. That also means, you know, giving them forehead kisses when they need it, or reassurance, and being that real foundation in her life. Because as men, you guys are technically the head of the household. You know, we're your second-hand mate. You know, we're like, yeah, you know, let's do this together. But at the end of the day, if there's a really important decision, like, we talk about it and we come to an understanding so that, you know, it's not just like one-sided. But for the most part, you guys make the big decisions, like financially and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's everybody's situation. Don't come at me in the comments. We really want a man who is modest and can take control as a true leader when needed. Not a bossy, you know, do this, do that kind of leader, no. But like somebody who can really take the reins when it's out of control and kind of bring focus back into the household. I don't know if that actually answered your question. I'm so sorry. I kind of went on a little rant there, but I hope that kind of helped. I'm gonna try and get through these without losing sunlight because it's only 3 o'clock and the sun is already setting. And it's giving me anxiety because I feel like I need to get through these questions faster, but at the same time, I'm like, I have answers. You guys are probably like, why are you ranting about this? Just get on with the questions. And I'm like, I know. Our next question is also TMI, so if you're uncomfortable with it, skip to this number. Okay, our next question is tips on stopping masturbation for women. And I think this actually counts for men as well. Now, the female and male brain works differently when, you know, this stuff happens. Obviously, we are programmed differently. However, 2 things are still the same. The first thing is getting an accountability partner that is not your spouse. It needs to be somebody of the same sex who is accountable and who can keep you accountable. And the second thing is confession. That is the biggest thing, because what happens is, I've talked about this, but basically confession is mini exorcism, which I absolutely love. Also though, let's say, so masturbation is a mortal sin, okay? So let's say your grace was here, you know, your, what is that? Sanctifying grace is here, okay? And then you sinned, mortal sin, so you're all the way down here now, okay? But then you go to confession. Where do you think your sanctifying grace is now after you go to confession and do your penance? Do you think it's here? Nope. It's up here. You get more sanctifying grace after confessing your sins. It's not like you go all the way down there and you have to start all over. No. It actually gives you more sanctifying grace to overcome those sins so that you can be more resilient against them when they hit you. Okay, so those are the 2 main things that are going to be the same for men and women. And these are both, I do believe, the same for men and women as well. And I'm just going to throw them out there anyways because whatever. So the first thing is more for pornography, but it kind of ties into that, and that is get a web blocker. One of the blockers that's going to block you from being able to access those sites. And if you try to access those sites, it'll send an email to your parents. And I feel like that's really good initiative to stop. The second thing is know your triggers. Know what happens before that triggers it. And try to intervene and intercept that before, you know, you really fall into that sin. Does that make sense? So basically, let's say one of your triggers is a TV show or movie you're watching. Stop watching it. I mean, I know that sounds like really blunt and kind of like, but I really like this TV show and stuff. If it's causing you to sin, it's not a good TV show, if that makes sense. So those are technically like my 4 tips. 3 tips for that, and then 4th tip for quitting pornography in a sense. But I mean, it's such a big problem in our world today, and it really aids in, you know, sex trafficking and everything like that. And if that's not a good enough reason to quit pornography in a sense, then I don't know what is really. But those are kind of like my tips, so hopefully that helps you. Okay, with our light fading fast, the next question is, when should you refrain from entering into a relationship due to struggles with chastity? I think the biggest issue is not having boundaries. So here's the thing. If you can't respect people outside of a relationship, you're not going to be able to respect them inside of a relationship. So just because you're inside a relationship does not mean that your chastity issues, whatever they may be, are just going to disappear. What really helps is getting a counselor of some kind, preferably Catholic, so that they can lead you spiritually in the right direction, who can really give you tips on how to overcome this and prepare yourself for a relationship. This is one of the biggest issues that I see today, and I've even experienced it myself, where, you know, somebody is not ready to be in a relationship due to chastity issues, and it can really take a toll on the relationship. It really can, and it goes both ways. So I would say if you're watching pornography or you have no control over your impulses, you shouldn't be in a relationship. Because it can really be damaging on the other person, because pornography is cheating. I'm not saying that's what you're dealing with. I hope that kind of made sense. Basically, we need to have self-control. Self-control is so attractive, okay? Like, for a guy to be able to just have control over himself is what women need to see more, because I think a lot of the times we see this other side of men that have no control, and it's disgusting to an extent. So I totally know what you mean, but that would be my tip. Okay, this isn't a question, but they say, not a question, but I love chastity. Me too, high five. That was awkward. I hope you high-fived me, otherwise I'm just high-fiving a camera and that looks weird. So please, high-five me back, because I don't want to look weird. Okay, next question. I had way too much coffee, oh my gosh. Is there any hope for me to find a girl who actually wants to be chaste with me and wait? Yes, there are many females like that. Unfortunately, we're not too talkative about it, because I feel like it's a really sensitive topic, especially since we get hated on it all the time by, other females. At least that's in my experience. I've always been really quiet about it because I've gotten so much hate for it from other females. It's just like, well, why don't you just do it? Like, it's fine, just do it. No, Karen. And unfortunately, peer pressure can be really dehumanizing, and in a way, it almost breaks down that wall where we're just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be chaste anymore. So a lot of times we keep quiet about it. And you won't really know that about us until you actually befriend us and get to know us on a more personal friendship level. Based off of your question, yes, there are women out there that are like that. And it just takes patience and honestly just getting to know them a little bit better. Which you could be doing. Again, I don't really know. I'm sorry. It just keeps getting darker and darker. Okay, my humanities professor is very liberal. Is chivalry really the root of all sexism today? No, like I mentioned before, the reason we have so much sexism is due to the fact that the feminist movement is so toxic, and also that there's a lack of masculinity in today's world, and everyone's just trying to blend each other together and be like non-binary, which means you don't have a gender. And if you actually look at a lot of the gender laws that people are trying to pass in the states and government and stuff, it actually states in a lot of the laws that we are all non-binary, which means we are all whatever we want to be in gender-wise, and that's causing a lot of confusion amongst the youth, and I don't think that's good. So I kind of got off topic there, but the point is that sexism comes from the fact that people don't respect other people, and also the fact that sexism isn't, I don't want to say it's not a thing anymore, because I do still see it every now and then, but in a way, it's not the same thing that it meant 50 years ago. So it's a little bit different now. But again, a lot of, just a lot of the sexism that's going on is just due to a lack of true masculinity in the, in the culture in general, Okay, next question. What should I do now that I'm not a virgin since I was pressured into having sex? So the exact same thing that I told the other person, go to confession, talk with a priest if you're really having struggles overcoming it, or just in general talk with a spiritual director so that they can direct you spiritually, Catholically? That's not a word, in the right direction. So I'm very sorry that that happened to you, because unfortunately, like I've said, that peer pressure and pressure in general is one of the reasons most of us sin, and it's very unfortunate. And so because of that, a lot of us have damaged our souls, and it's really sad, but remember, God loves you and he wants you to come back to him. So go to confession, talk with a spiritual counselor if you're really having issues processing what happened. And I think one of the greatest examples of this is St. Mary Magdalene. I mean, look at her. She was a prostitute. She was all of these things, but she cried, at our Lord's feet and washed his feet with her hair. It's insane, and she is one of the most amazing women. And while Jesus saved her, she was the one who made the decision to follow Jesus and be one of his disciples, So we have to make that decision to really follow Jesus as well and not fall back into these sins and really get the healing and forgiveness that God gives us. So I hope that helps, and again, I'm really sorry that happened to you. Okay, and the last question is, How should I continue my dating life despite no longer being pure? So, yeah, I see this one all the time. I've had friends that struggled with this as well. And one of the best things that I've learned from everyone who I've talked to is being honest. You know, really being honest and making that promise to yourself, to God, and to your future boyfriend or boyfriend that you're dating right now, and being like, I'm waiting till marriage now. We can't take back, you know, what happened, but we can say, okay, this is where I'm at now, and I'm going to save myself for marriage now. You know, being like, this is where I stand. I'm not going to get pressured into doing this again. I'm not going to have sex again, or whatever it might have been. You know, I've talked to a lot of men who say, like, I don't care about her past as long as she's grown from it and she's embraced her purity and she's received that love, forgiveness, and healing from God. You know, it's one of those things where we really have to mature and we really have to think about the other person. But the thing is if you're mature and you've grown from it and you're different and you are embracing, you know, that love and forgiveness from God and everything, your past shouldn't matter to him. It's a completely different story, however, if it's a repetitive thing where you just keep sleeping with guys or girls or whoever it may be, and or just in general, you know, being impure. But if you've really set that foundation and you are, you know, serious about keeping your purity for, you know, your marriage, that will mean the world to your future spouse. So I think that's really important to keep in mind, and I hope that helps. Delicious. The ice is jiggling. Alright everyone, so the sun is setting and I have minimal light left, so I'm gonna leave it here. However, I hope this helps some of you guys. I know purity is a huge topic today, and you know, we all struggle with it in our own ways, but I really hope that this video helped you guys get some good ideas and can hopefully find some healing for those of you that need it, and offered, you know, some comfort to those who ask certain questions. So with all of that being said, have a great day or night wherever you're at, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!